Another big, I get this one a lot, and I really don't know if there's still a scientific method I put to it, but actually at the start, figuring out the price of the property.
Yeah.
Because from my end, everyone thinks that it's like buying a computer at JB Hi-Fi, or maybe like a car, maybe not so much cars, but in terms of like there's a fixed price, and I just want to come in and pay this price for the property, and it's got some magical precise value. Now I know I don't see it that way, especially even working in the industry, but I mean, I'll open it up as a conversation topic in terms of what you think.
So I guess first and foremost is that pricing a property to its actual market value cannot be calculated with a formula, much like, you know, bank valuations actually do use some formulas in one part of the valuation. But when it comes to actually selling a home in the open market, there is no magical formula that you can actually apply to find out the price of the property. And the issue with pricing is that pricing is a sensitive topic when it comes to the sale price of the home, both for the seller and for the agent. And when it comes to pricing, I think the best method of attack is actually sitting down with the agent and going through some properties that are actually comparable. And, you know, you look at things that are similar, like land size is similar, same attributes like your cars, your garaging, your bathrooms, your bedrooms, and so forth. And then actually doing the exercise. So the way sort of I like to practice it, instead of telling the seller what the property is worth from my experience, I like to actually get them involved in the exercise so they have a better understanding of how we actually calculate it. And we're going to look at things like recent sales and you know, sales history and maybe the replacement cost of the property. There's lots of factors that go into play, but I think getting the seller involved in that process is really important. And the other thing that I guess we should mention when it comes to pricing is that a lot of agents actually use that as a tool to win business. So a lot of agents will actually walk into someone's lounge room and they'll actually overprice the property to their face, trying to obviously pump up their tires and give them false expectations of what we could achieve for their home. And that sometimes gets the seller believing they can achieve a certain price. So they'll go with that particular agent because they think that agent will get them that price. But the reality is that a property has a true market value, and that can only be determined by the marketplace itself. And I think that's really important, that if you sit and do the exercise with the seller, there's a better understanding, there's better communication, there's a more transparent approach on how we attack it, and an overall sort of better business model.
Very interesting. It gets harder. So the spiel I usually give is the more comparables there are, the more properties that have recently transacted that are similar to whatever, say it's an apartment, right? Say it's an apartment in Ryde. There's heaps of apartments in Ryde selling all the time. Mm-hmm. So that's normally easier. When it gets hard, is it's like there's a tightly held, you know, say doors pointing the rocks or something, and there's not many sales, and then you've got someone asking for millions and millions, and there's really no comparables, and then somehow in that exercise, you know, agent, seller, buyer, trying to figure out a price, and the buyer, especially the buyer, like that's who I feel for, because they're trying to think, how do I know I'm not getting ripped off?
Yeah.
You know, how do I know I'm not like buying something $1 million over what it's worth? And then even say it's a bit different, but for commercial property, I've done more of that in the past, where there can be even less comparables there. And you call an agent and say, let's say, it's worth $40,000 a year, and you ask, okay, well, how's that price? And they go, well, it's what the owner wants for it. I remember an agent said to me once, and I thought, you know, that's a bit, but really sometimes that's what's left in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, someone's willing to part at it for this much, someone's willing to buy it at this much. And, you know, I guess a lot of the time it's anchored towards what the bank's going to value something at as well, because that'll, I guess, restrict what people can borrow.
Yeah.
But when you're getting cash buyers in the equation, so people buying it without debt, then you can get some really interesting results
Yeah, absolutely.
You get some people who just want to die in a property, for example, and
Yep.
they'll pay well over the alleged market worth. So I think sometimes it's just there's not that clear cut an answer, and that's really where it ends.
Yeah, so that's obviously what makes it hard for the seller. You know, it is one of those things that doesn't have a true value, and it can vary, you know, from person to person, and you know, a market value can be subjective to opinion. And at the end of the day, it'll always be worth what someone's willing to pay for it. You know, I might be willing to pay $100,000 more than you. But that's also what makes it hard for sellers too, because, you know, they might have an agent that walks through their home and tells them it's worth 1.5 million and one that says 1.1 million, and there's a huge disparity there. And that happens all the time. Yeah. And one of the biggest mistakes that a seller can make is go with the person who's sort of telling them the most, when they should actually go with the seller or the agent that actually has a true understanding of the marketplace and can actually demonstrate the exercise on how to try and best work out the market value for the home. Because often what happens is that when we go to market, if you've actually overpriced the property, you're actually damaging the sale campaign. So what a seller forgets to realize is that when it goes to market, that house is no longer isolated on its own. That home is now competing with all the other homes on the market. So when it is competing with other homes on the market, if you're not priced competitively, then you're actually damaging the sale campaign, because you're not going to have the foot traffic coming through the home. You're not going to have the inquiry. You're not going to have contracts going out. And ultimately, if you don't have inquiry on the property and you don't have traffic, then you can't really sell it to anybody. So before anything happens, you need the inquiry, you need the foot traffic, so you can actually find the market value and actually have someone to sell the property to. As where if you overprice it because Mr. Agent Smith over there told you can get 1.5 million and it's nowhere near that, then you're shooting yourself in the foot, because the people that could possibly actually afford the property might have been priced out because you've overinflated the price, which means you've damaged the competition and you've ruined every single aspect of the sale campaign. So it's important that you do that exercise very thoroughly and to the best of your ability. And that's why I truly believe it's important to get the seller involved in that exercise.
One last point on that is, be touched on there, is that at the end of the day, it's when it's open, it's on the market, and you've got people coming in who are looking at your property in competition to the other properties, like there's no better way to figure out the actual value than an actual campaign. We get the actual buyers that are actually looking now to come in, and their offers ultimately do the talking at the end of the day. And yeah, I get pricing is more of an art than a science, but there has to be some sort of method to it. We can't just be pulling it out of nowhere.
Definitely.